All right. Hey, good afternoon, folks. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Today is Wednesday, September 25th, 2024. This is the part 2 of your update on Hurricane Helene. We are tracking the landfall of what is expected to be a powerful major hurricane to the Big Bend region of Florida on Thursday night into Friday, with widespread impacts across Florida's peninsula through Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and even parts of Alabama, as this powerful hurricane is expected to move in and bring with it a host of impacts. We're going to talk about them today. We're going to look at kind of the regional impacts. We're going to talk about wind, surge, rain, all that stuff. And then we're going to talk about a little bit more specifically for Jacksonville in some instances here. So overall, again, no major updates this afternoon from the Hurricane Center, besides the fact it is now explicitly forecast to be a Category 4 hurricane at landfall. The Hurricane Center has this 130-mile-an-hour hurricane near Tampa Bay on Thursday afternoon, landfalling near that intensity or possibly even a bit stronger on Thursday night. As we've talked about in our previous videos, Helene is going to be a large and powerful hurricane that's moving fast. I really cannot stress the multitude of factors here, and the deep, fast-moving, and powerful storm really exacerbates and increases the impacts both at the coast and inland. When we talk about a bigger and deeper storm, we get more wind, wide wind swaths, so we get more people feel the bad winds, and it pushes more surge, and then that fast forward speed carries it further inland. So if we're looking at the tropical storm watches and warnings and hurricane watches and warnings at this hour, the red is hurricane warnings. These extend all the way up into central Georgia. I mean, we're talking 150 plus miles, maybe even more away from the coast. I mean, people in central Georgia are going to get a hurricane from this. Hurricane force sustained winds. This is going to be probably hardly ever happened before in this area. I mean, I don't even know if there's a storm on record. Even Michael may not have done, it may have, but I mean, it's probably going to be something like that. But you're talking about a very deep, powerful hurricane moving in at a very fast rate of speed. Tropical storm warnings extend all the way up into Asheville, North Carolina. I mean, we're talking about from Miami, from the Florida Keys to Asheville, North Carolina. Tropical storm warnings are in effect for the same hurricane. Does that tell you enough about how big and strong this storm is going to be? I hope it does. Notice how all of South Carolina now under these tropical storm warnings, all of Georgia under the tropical storm warnings, some of western North Carolina, and even parts of Alabama, where a few counties are even under a hurricane warning. So that kind of gives you the regional idea. Going into some numbers here from the Hurricane Center, look at the new storm surge graphic. 20 feet of storm surge potentially in the Big Bend region where this storm makes landfall. Again, wherever the landfall point is, which it kind of looks like Harabelle or Apalachicola is going to have the eye, all to the east is where all that wind just piles and pushes and surges that water in. And again, 20 plus mile an hour storm already with 130 plus mile an hour wind. So you got to add the forward speed on the east side to the winds. So you're putting that near 150. And then gusts are going to be above that. Like, I hope we're getting the picture at this point. I mean, if you know anyone in this area that is thinking about staying because, we rode out Adalia and it was a 4 and it wasn't that bad, this is going to make Adalia seem like a joke. For 95% of the people who went through Adalia, this is going to be nothing like Adalia. Please do not fall into that trap of doing the storm comparison thing. Helene would eat Adalia's breakfast 7 days out of the week. This is not even going to be close to the same type of storm. 10 to 15 feet down towards that upper Tampa area, Swanee River area, Cedar Key, Steinhatchee could get some of the worst surge with this. And then even 10 to 15 feet back towards Apalachicola, Indian Pass, kind of the cutoff, the land sticking out here will likely save Mexico Beach and Panama City from the worst. They'll get some water rise for sure. And then down to Tampa Bay up to 5 to 8 feet, 3 to 5 feet for Charlotte Harbor, and then back around from there. You guys can look at the map. Don't discount this. A lot of places are evacuating in Tampa Bay. They should be. You won't get the worst of the storm, but you're going to get a lot of storm surge, and 8 feet of surge can absolutely kill you. And I don't even need to tell you how bad 20 feet of surge is. I mean, we are getting into like record territory. I mean, for the Gulf Coast. I mean, not quite like Katrina record, but pretty damn close at this point. Hurricane Helene's rainfall to come. WPC is upgraded to high risk, 4 out of 4 on their scale, both for the Tallahassee metro area and then for parts of upper South Carolina, North Carolina, and even northern Georgia, and on the potential for over a foot of rain in these locations. And this is going to be falling fast and heavy when it does. Widespread, very high flash flooding risk. There will be flash flooding emergencies. There will be water that comes in so fast it makes people's heads spin. And this could happen hundreds of miles from where that eye makes landfall. As we've talked about, as Helene comes in, it's going to have this upper level low over Arkansas kind of ventilating the storm. And you're going to have the upper low and Helene working together in this region. It's going to kind of funnel that weather. You see how the red kind of funnels up north? It doesn't really expand out towards Mississippi or towards South or North Carolina as much, how it kind of like stays more in that corridor. That's because the upper level winds are going to focus the maximum rainfall and storm potential in this area. So not only are devastating wind gusts going to carry halfway up towards Atlanta, you're also going to have a widespread heavy rainfall event. I mean, I really hope people in northern Georgia and western South Carolina and even parts of Tennessee, North Carolina know what's coming. Like, this is going to be a storm that people talk about for years after. They're going to go, man, I can't believe the storm was that bad. I really hope the local Mets are pounding the table and jumping up and down on desks in this area, because this could be, really bad here too. We don't just want to focus on Tallahassee and the Big Bend. I mean, this is going to bring widespread rain and destructive winds are going to carry very far inland, because like I said, the storm's not going to be able to wind down as much. It's going to carry much further inland with those strong winds, hence why we have hurricane warnings halfway up through Georgia, as we talked about earlier. Let's go ahead and talk about the winds actually while we're on the subject. This is Thursday morning. We can see a lot of upper 40s and low 50s starting to move into southwest Florida by tomorrow morning. As we go into later on in the day, say just after lunchtime, we can see 60s have already spread up to parts of Tampa Bay, where you guys are already getting those strong tropical storm force wind gusts. Some strong tropical storm force winds start in the Big Bend. Jacksonville starts getting really, really breezy around the afternoon hours. A lot of the Florida Peninsula is feeling it at this point. Central Florida, we go into about 21 Z, so a little bit later in the afternoon, we start seeing those outer, like, heavy tropical storm sustained winds along the West Florida coast, and then we see the eye make landfall around 0 Z, which is about 8 o'clock local time. We have, winds over 100 miles an hour moving in. We have about 50s and 60s for Jacksonville. Again, this is all 10-meter winds. I like this HWRF model because it kind of is giving us a reasonable worst-case scenario with a powerful hurricane and with a believable landfall location. So this is why I'm specifically showing you this WRF analysis and not some other model, because I think this is checking a lot of boxes for something that could realistically happen. For the Jacksonville area, a little bit more specifically, you can see here as I move over during what would be the, quote, worst of the storm, you're looking at, about upper 50s to maybe low 60s. A lot of the beaches are probably going to be a little bit higher. You can see the upper, mid to upper 60s for some of the beach areas. And if I go out to the west towards Lake City and areas out that way, you can see the wind gusts get higher. The potential for hurricane force winds is probably along into the west of I-75, between I-75 and 301, probably that upper tropical storm force. And then, to the west of that, or to the east of that, around Jacksonville, you're probably more in that mid-tropical storm force. Sustained winds around this time will generally be right about that 30 to 35 mile an hour range. A few areas, again, off to the west, will be 40, 45 sustained. A lot of trees, a lot of power line damage. This is going to be, pretty serious when it comes through. And I urge people in Jacksonville, again, this ain't going to be Ian or Adalia or Debbie or these other ones that have all missed, and, y'all prepare and then nothing happens. You're like, what the hell? Not going to be that kind of storm. You're going to feel it. It's not going to be like Matthew Irma bad, but it's going to be worse than some of these misses you guys have had recently. So that should give you a rough idea for the winds. And again, of course, towards the Big Bend, is what it is. You're getting a hurricane, but look how far that core of winds, look how well the model keeps this hurricane organized. The eye moves into South Georgia, and look how fast it comes in. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. It makes it from the Big Bend and Tallahassee halfway up into Georgia. So you think in 5 hours it's going to weaken all that much? It's not. So widespread. Look at these wind gusts into, if I go into parts of Atlanta, 75 mile an hour wind gusts in Atlanta. This is a metro area home to millions of people that might be getting hurricane force wind gusts from this thing. I really can't stress how bad this is going to be in this area too, to the north. A lot of South Carolina getting on those upper 50s, 60s. Again, these numbers you're seeing, you can take some off the top if you want. It's 10-meter winds. It's not surface. But, I mean, it shows you the potential for those widespread destructive winds moving well away from the coast and well inland in this big storm. We talked about storm surge. We talked about rainfall. Wrap up with tornadoes. The Storm Prediction Center tomorrow has a slight risk for the Florida Peninsula. There will be tornado watches up and down the Florida Peninsula by the afternoon and evening. Overnight, we'll start seeing them spread into South Carolina and Georgia. And look at the enhanced risk for southeast Georgia and some of South Carolina. This is a average sounding for the tornado potential. Very strong curved photographs, very strong wind shear in the column, bulk shear like 40-something knots, and then your SRH coming into the 400s. So not only do I think this could produce tropical tornadoes in some areas like South Georgia and more South Carolina along the coast here, you could see stronger tornadoes. Definitely, as this upper weather feature mixes in, there will be potential for tornadoes, and some of them could be strong. So Helene will likely produce many tornadoes as it moves up the coast. Police have multiple ways to get alerts. And, check that out. I think this is a model for, for South Carolina. We were taking a look at that. And I think that's pretty much it. Overall, the Jacksonville briefing has not changed. They're still showing that 39 to 57 mile an hour potential. And they do have coastal flood warnings in effect right now. I think for the flooding for Jacksonville, as far as surge goes, you won't see a lot of surge besides like the areas that typically flood along the beach, around St. Augustine and stuff. But I think that mouth of the St. Johns River, where those south winds carry up the river with the current, and then where it bends to try to get out of the coast, the tide may keep the water in, and that onshore flow may keep the water in. So if we remember in Irma, how it kind of pinched the water, and then right around that downtown area where the river curves kind of saw a lot of flooding, like maybe Riverside or so, they could actually see some flooding. So I think that'll be your localized worst flooding conditions. Overall, though, not the biggest threat, but just something to monitor. That's kind of what I got you guys in the broad brush impacts. Again, I can't get to everybody. I am going to try to do a Facebook Live here, maybe in an hour and a half or so. I'm going to shoot for maybe 7:30 Eastern or maybe 8 o'clock or so, if I can get it up. So if you guys want to join me on that, we'll have more time to answer your questions, look at your specific area, kind of go from there. But that's what I got for you guys this afternoon. Please treat the storm seriously. Please take your precautions and prepare accordingly. This is going to be a bad storm when it moves in. So that's what I got for you guys on your update. Again, part 1 on the page if you want to take a look at what the storm itself is doing. Until then, guys, thanks for watching. Stay safe and have a good one.